Alrighty, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Let me go ahead and let's go through this here. What we're going to do here today is we're going to go over Biden's little big boy press conference here today. He's a big boy. I'm a big kid now. Alright, put your pull-ups on so you don't crap your pants, alright? So, let's go ahead and jump in here. This thing was so freaking totally ridiculous. I mean, everything he said were freaking lies, and everything Trump was saying were facts. He tried to bait Trump like crazy and was unable to accomplish that goal. Trump took it like a man and did not jump back. Now, there's other things I've seen on commentaries on this. I have to wait before I do a commentary on something like this because when I watch this, I'm screaming at the freaking computer. You gotta be kidding me. That's BS. You know, if I were to do a video revamping one of these right away, you would hear me hollering and screaming. Okay, it's just ridiculous. You know, the things that he says in here is just crazy. So let's just jump right on into this and let's see what we got going on here, okay?
Thank you. Please be seated. Well, good evening. We just concluded this year's NATO summit, and the consensus among the members was
Got a cough. There's one.
It was a great success. It's especially momentous because it represented the 75th year, the most important military defense alliance in the world's history of the world.
Okay, in the world, in the history of the world. Now, I understand he's coming on strong because he's all doped up right now, and he's strong. He's stronger than he's ever going to be right here. Okay, but in this conference here, this interview that he does, this press conference, you will see how he slowly loses steam and gets exhausted and starts losing his train of thought and starts jumping from whispering to yelling to anger to calm. Cannot control his emotions. Let's go on.
We should never forget that NATO grew out of the wreckage of World War II, the most destructive war in history. The idea was to create an alliance of free and democratic nations that would commit themselves to a compact of collective defense. Standing together, they knew we'd all be safer. Attack on one would be treated as an attack on all. And it's worked. Because a would-be aggressor knows if they attack one of us, they'll be attacked by all of us. Sending that message is the best way to deter aggression and prevent wars in the first place. For those who thought NATO's time had passed, they got a rude awakening when Putin invaded Ukraine. Some of the oldest and deepest fears in Europe roared back to life. Because once again, a murderous madman was on the march. This time, no one cowered in appeasement, especially the United States. We collected intelligence that Russia was planning to invade Ukraine months before the invasion. I directed the intelligence community to be a significant amount of intelligence.
What are you saying?
Declassified, so I could start building an international coalition to oppose the invasion. Then in February, some of you remember, I warned the world that the invasion was imminent. I rallied the coalition.
I don't remember him warning anybody. Do you? No. I heard Trump talking about it.
Coalition of 50 nations from Europe to Asia to help Ukraine defend itself. Many foreign policy experts thought, as Putin amassed Russian forces just 100 miles north of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, but Putin thought it was the mother home of Russia. The capital would fall in less than a week. But the Ukrainian people, backed by a coalition to help build, stopped them. Today,
as I remember, what Putin said was he wasn't going after Kiev. And it's Kiev, not Kyiv. Just like it's...
Kyiv still...
Whoops. Anyway, just like it's Qatar, not gutter. Ugh, these people, they like changing everything. Went from Kamala to Kamala. I mean, these people, they change things like crazy. You think they're not changing history? Oh, your history's been changed. Have you ever heard of Tartaria? I don't think you have. Yeah, well, they were the dominant free energy society that dominated this planet. This plane, I should say. All right, let's continue.
Stands. The NATO stands stronger than it has ever been.
We got a cough again. Was that two? Did I miss one? Maybe that's three.
During the week of this summit, several heads of states made it a point in their statements to thank the United States and to thank
That's three.
me personally for all that NATO has achieved. NATO is not only stronger, NATO is bigger because we led the charge to bring in Finland and Sweden into the alliance. It makes a gigantic difference. Excuse me.
And there goes four.
Meanwhile, my predecessor has made it clear he has no commitment to NATO.
As we should not have any commitment to NATO since they are all anti-United States.
He's made it clear that he would feel no obligation to honor Article 5. He's already told Putin, and I quote, "Do whatever the hell you want."
Never heard that quote, never heard him say that, never seen it documented anywhere. That could just be me. I could be, cloistered, but I don't think so. I've never heard it. It could have said it, but it could have taken this out of context. So I'm unsure on that actual quote right there.
In fact, the day after Putin invaded Ukraine, here's what he said. It was genius.
I do not recall that. I never heard him say that Putin going into Ukraine was genius. Never heard that.
It was wonderful. Some of you forgot that, but that's exactly what he said. But I made it clear, a strong NATO is essential to American security. And I believe the obligation of Article 5 is sacred. And I remind all Americans.
And here comes number 5.
Article 5 is invoked on.
See, told you he's even counting. He even said 5. 5 coughs. Right now, if NATO is so important, then why is the U.S. footing the majority of the bill? Why aren't the countries that are more important, that really need to be protected because they're right there, without the big old ocean in between, why are they not paying more than us?
Once in NATO's long history, and that was to defend America after 9/11. I made it clear.
9/11 was done by the CIA.
I will not bow down to Putin. I will not walk away from Ukraine. I will keep NATO strong. That's exactly what we did, and exactly what we'll continue to do. Now, the future of American policy is up to the American people.
And the American people want out. Want out. Stop giving money to Ukraine. That's our tax dollars. Why do we have homeless people and homeless veterans and our veterans sleeping on the streets with illegal aliens sleeping in 5-star hotels, getting phones for free and medical for free and food for free, education for free, and yet veterans, such as myself, are struggling and suffering. Why are we giving all this money to Ukraine to protect their borders? Why is our military overseas when our invasion is at our southern border?
It's much more than a political question. It's more than that. It's a national security issue.
National security starts at our southern border. Get on it.
Don't reduce this to the usual testament that people talk about, issues of being a political campaign. It's far too important. It's about the world we live in for decades to come. Every American must ask herself or himself.
Herself or himself? Wait a second, what about the other 2,000 genders? I thought there were more than male and female. Why is it himself or herself? Why is there only 2 you're mentioning?
Is the world safer with NATO? Are you safer?
No, I am not safer with NATO. The world is more in danger with NATO. NATO is working with an NWO. and the WHO and the WEF. They're trying to take down this country from the inside out because that's the only way they can do it. And they're succeeding with people like this buffoon in office.
Is your family safer? I believe the American people know. The answer to all those questions is yes. And I believe the American people understand that America is stronger because of our alliances. I believe the American consensus from Truman to Reagan to me still holds today. America cannot retreat from the world. We must lead the world. We're our indispensable nation, as
Madeleine Albright said, okay, America cannot retreat from the world. What do you think we are doing with you and your unelected officials that you put in your regime? What do you think you're doing? You're retreating. You weakened our military. You weakened our borders. You weakened our infrastructure. You weakened our economy. We are primed for the takeover. Right now, as I just heard yesterday, and this is July 13th, 2024, or July 12th, 2024, that we have Chinese military ships, not far off the coast of Alaska. And I heard about a week before that, if not sooner than that, earlier than that, Russian nuclear weapons loaded ships are down around Cuba. I mean, does anybody remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Bay of Pigs under John F. Kennedy? Man, that was a big deal. Well, we're right back at it again. Same thing. Nuclear missiles down in Cuba. Russian nuclear missiles. What are you doing about it? You made us all weak. Now they're coming in for the kill. They're getting ready to pounce. Chinese troops are in Canada. Training in Canada. Right along the top U.S. border. All these migrants you call coming in. They're illegal aliens. They are not migrants. They're all male, military age, very few females, and a lot of them are coming from China. How many of those are Chinese military, huh? How many of these military-age men that are coming from all over the world that are coming in here are UN troops without their uniforms on? Why do we have UN police stations in the United States? Why do we have Chinese police stations in the United States? Why? Because this doofus lets them in. Lets them do what they want. Why are the Chinese buying up farmland? Why is Bill Gates buying up farmland? Look at the farmland they're buying. If you look at the cataclysmic map of the United States, the farmland they're buying will be right on the water line. Speaking of water line, why are all these presidents and these higher up people talking about climate change and the oceans are going to rise and we're going to lose all kinds of land? Why are they buying multi-billion-dollar mansions all along the shoreline? Really? Come on, people. That's a topic for a different discussion. Let's go on.
Albright wrote. Now let me turn to three other key issues. Just this morning, we had a great economic report showing inflation is down.
Wrong. Inflation is not down. Inflation is slightly down from when you took it up so high. Inflation is way higher now than it was when you took office.
Overall prices fell last month.
Prices are skyrocketed. Okay? If they fell last month, sorry, I'm starting to sound like him now. But if they fell last month, then why are they still 40-50% higher than they were when Trump was in office? So great job there, Geriatric Joe. Let's see what else he's got to say.
Inflation is the lowest it's been in 3 years.
Bull. That is bull right there. That is not true. Look it up. Go in and you type in Google inflation by year and pull up the charts.
Prices are falling for cars, appliances, and airfare.
Where is he at where these prices are all falling? Everywhere I go, they're going up. Hey, I used to buy a full propane tank for $45. I stocked up on full propane tanks at $45. Do you know what they are now for a full propane tank? $70. Are you kidding me? Prices are down? Where are you living?
Grocery prices have fallen since the start of the year.
Eggs are up 50%. I go to buy a piece of meat that used to cost me $7 and change. I'm looking at it now and it's $25. So where's the grocery prices falling? You know, I felt like I got stronger under Biden. I'm much stronger because now I can carry $200 worth of groceries in one hand.
We're going to keep working to take down corporate greed to bring those prices down further.
Corporate greed, you're going to stop corporate greed, really, to bring prices down further, excuse me. So how are you going to do that? By making them pay their fair share? Really? Like that works? When I was running a business that utilized gasoline a lot in the business, when the prices went up under Obama, I raised my prices, which meant the people had to pay more. And I didn't hire anybody else because I couldn't afford to hire anybody else. So there were jobs that were sitting out there that I couldn't create, and I had to raise my prices. I made the other people pay so that I could still make my same profit. That's what corporations will do. They will lay people off, close down plants, make the same amount they're making, or make more, no matter how much you increase their taxes. Doofus.
Meanwhile, Trump's calling for a 10% tariff on everything Americans buy, including food from overseas, vegetables, and other necessities. And economists tell us that would cost the average American working family another $2,500 a year. It's a tax of $2,500.
Negative. Trump is talking about using tariffs as a negotiation tool. I'll put a tariff on you. You know, the reciprocation act that he wants to put out. You give us 100% tariff, we're going to give you 100% tariff. Isn't that the way it should be? That's the way it should be. Well, maybe if we're both paying 100% tariff and the prices are up so high, we're not making as many sales. So let's renegotiate this tariff thing. Boom. Now you negotiate tariff thing. Tariffs come off. Prices go back down. They start making their sales, and we start making money.
Second, our efforts to secure the border, southern border, is working. After Trump...
Their efforts to secure the southern border are working. Really? Let's see what this has to say. Let's see if this is the one. Hold on a second here. How about we pull up this fact, this little factoid here. Claim. President Joe Biden claimed at his high stakes, make or break, quote unquote, big boy, NATO press conference, the border crossings are lower than when former President Donald Trump left office. Verdict, false. NBC News, you know, the far right news station, reported 84,000 illegal immigrants were apprehended at the border in June 2024. In January 2021, when Trump left office, there were 75,000 migrant encounters along the southwest border. So where are you getting that their crossings are down? And that's only the ones that they know of. When they have them get away, they're not allowed to count them in these statistics under the guise that you don't know if they got away and turned around and ran back across the border back into Mexico. So you can't count them as crossing into the U.S. I'm sorry. They crossed into the U.S. They crossed into the U.S. Count them. Ain't nobody running back across the border. Not when they're going to get free phones, free hotel rooms, free food, free medical, free education, free dental, while our homeless veterans sleep on the street.
Killed the bipartisan effort to secure the border Republicans and Democrats had worked on because he thought it would benefit me and make him a loser.
I'm sorry, but his bipartisan thing was not one really bipartisan, and it would have allowed thousands and thousands of illegals to enter the country. And only after thousands and thousands entered would they stop, is what it said. They would start stopping them. Are you kidding me? That'd be like, my ship is sinking, water is getting in. Okay, well let's do an executive thing here. Let's do a bipartisan thing with us and the crew. Let's say that we'll only allow 1,000 gallons to get in an hour. Okay, and that'll solve the problem. What? No amount of water can sink a ship unless it's allowed to get inside. No invasion can take over this country unless it's allowed to get inside. And that's what his quote unquote bipartisan agreement would have done. It would have allowed them to keep coming in.
Republicans walked away. So I took executive action last month.
Wait, you took executive action last month. And why last month were you not just saying, well, I need the Republicans to get on board. I need Congress to do something about the border. Well, then when Trump was saying the whole time, no, you don't. You can just take executive action. So he finally takes executive action to allow people to come in across the border. Are you kidding me? Does anybody believe in this BS?
As a consequence, working with Mexico, border encounters have gone down over 50%.
BS. BS. Border encounters have not gone down over 50%. And if I can get my mouse to stop freezing.
The current level is lower today than when Trump left office.
Outright lie.
Third, for months, the United States has been working to secure a ceasefire in Gaza.
I've been working to secure this in Gaza.
To bring the hostages home.
And under Trump, that never would have happened. Matter of fact, the whole Gaza invasion on October 7th was all planned. It was all set up to do that. Why do you think the military in Israel stood down? They've got those borders so secure that if a bird or squirrel or a pigeon is a bird, but now I'm starting to sound like Biden. I've been listening to him too long. I'm starting to sound like him. But if a squirrel, cat, pigeon came within 100 feet of that border fence, they had so much tech out there that it would have alerted the IDF immediately, and they would have been right on it. They would have had everybody right there. How come it went 7 hours before anybody did anything or knew anything? Because the military was told to stand down. That was right after Biden gave Iran billions of dollars, and Iran took the billions of dollars, funded Hamas, told Hamas to go ahead in, and Hamas, by the way, was actually formed by Israel. Okay, you know, they call ISIS a threat. ISIS, Israeli security, international security, Israeli, I forget what it was, but I forget how it goes. But ISIS is actually something created by Israel, CIA, along with Hamas, is created by Israel, the CIA, and the United States. They put up the Trojan horse to give them a reason to go in and take more land. Okay, that's all about. Screw that.
Create a path for peace and stability in the Middle East.
You mean like Trump did? That you stopped and allowed everybody to go after them?
6 weeks ago, I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There's still gaps to close. We're making progress. The trend is positive. And I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now.
And then you can end it right now, too. You could end it right now. All right. You just tell Israel, we are not funding you anymore. You shut down Iran's money that you've been giving Iran. and there'll be nobody to have any money to buy weapons to attack. Okay? Bull, you're lying.
Let me conclude where I began. We're the United States of America. We are the indispensable nation. Our leadership matters. Our partnerships matter. This moment matters. We must rise to meet it. With that, I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here.
Big boy conference. Ooh, I love the big boy conference. I've been given a list of people to call on. Do you know what that means? The translation of that means I've been given a list of questions that I'm only allowed to answer because I'm a figurehead and unelected people are running the country, including Barack Obama. Okay? I've been given this list of questions that I've already been given the answers to, and they're right here on my podium. And as I answer these questions, you'll see me put my head down like I'm thinking about the answer, but I'm reading it right off of my cue cards. Big boy conference, my patootie, my yatabe. See, watching this just gets me riled up. Good thing I don't do these right after um, I watch these things on live. It's just no way.
Here, Reuters, Jeff Mason.
Also, he screws up on the amount of the people, the order that he calls the people on. And even you'll see a little later on, if you pay attention, you'll see when they say, okay, last question. And then he starts to answer that question. He goes, well, I got two more questions, which means he has to answer two more people. Okay, so he has to do what he's told to do.
Mr. President, your
Now you see Steve Doocy right here? There's Steve Doocy. Right there. He's not given the chance to ask a question. Now, I don't like the questions he said he was going to ask if he was given a chance anyway, because they weren't substantive. Okay? There were other questions that could have been asked, but Steve Doocy never got a chance to ask a question.
political future has hung over the NATO summit a little bit this week. Speaker Pelosi made a point of suggesting that your decision on whether to stay in the race was still open. George Clooney and a handful of lawmakers have called on you to step aside.
Look at his smirk.
Reuters is reporting tonight that UAW leadership is concerned about your ability to
win. UAW just endorsed me, but go ahead.
My question for you is, how are you incorporating these developments into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President.
Here's a good one. Here's a good one. Here's a good one.
President Trump to be vice president. But I think she was not.
Question for you is, how are you incorporating
Let's get back to that
into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president
if she were at the top of the ticket.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be president. Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president. But
I did not know Vice President Trump was a thing.
I think she was not qualified to be president.
And she's not qualified to be president. Vice President Trump, she's not qualified.
Vice President Trump to be vice president. But I think she was not qualified to be president.
She's not qualified to be president. If he didn't think she was qualified to be president. She, Vice President Trump. Really? People, come on now.
So let's start there. Number one. The fact is that...
Was that 6? Number 6? Did I miss any? 6 call?
The consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again. Secondly, The idea, I served in the Senate a long time.
Yes, you did. You've been in politics for 50 years. All these problems have happened over and come to fruition over 50 years. So we're going to look to someone who has been in office for 50 years to now start fixing the problem. I'm sorry, but people like you in office for 50 years is the problem.
The idea that senators and congressmen running
Number seven. Number seven.
for office worry about the ticket is not unusual. And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now.
Oh, we're going into the whispering. Now you can see where it's starting to wear off. Okay, the dope, the drugs are starting to wear off. And now the dope is starting to show.
Now, later in the campaign. So there's a long way to go in this campaign. And so I'm just going to keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We've got more work to finish. We made so much progress.
Yeah, you're right. You're not finished destroying this country yet. You need another 4 more years to destroy it completely.
Think about it. Think about where we are economically relative to the rest of the world.
Yeah, where are we economically? Huh? I used to pay 99 cents for a dozen eggs. Now I'm paying $5 for a dozen eggs.
Name me a world leader who wouldn't want to trade places with our economy. We've created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs.
Wrong. I'll tell you what. I'll just put this out here before he continues with anything else about jobs. All right. You cannot create a fake crisis and have businesses shut down and employees be laid off and fired and let go. All right. And have thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people out of work. And then when Trump started getting the economy going back again, he takes over and these people start getting their jobs back while he is president. He calls it job creation. No, that's getting jobs back that were there at one time. You cannot count that as job creation.
1.5 million. So things are moving. We got more to go. Working class people still need help. Corporate greed is still at large. The prices, the corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. They're coming down, and so I'm optimistic about where things are going. Danny Kemp, AFP.
8. That was number 8.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today.
That's right. He started talking about Zelensky, president of Ukraine. He started talking about the president of Ukraine, how brave he is, and everything else. And he goes, so without anything else to say, let's turn it over. There you go, President Putin. And he comes back with Putin. President Putin? No, he's going to beat President Putin. I've been thinking so much about Putin. It's like, really? If Trump did that, they'd have a heyday.
And you now have sort of your key allies, including the British Prime Minister, the President of France, and the German Chancellor having to step in and make excuses for you on that. Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference?
Oh, yeah. I've seen many more. I've seen them done by Reagan. I've seen them done by Trump. Yeah, way more successful.
What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look.
He didn't add 5 other names after that. What do you mean you added 5 other names? You didn't. You said, Putin. I meant Zelensky. He's going to beat Putin. He didn't mention anybody else's names after that.
Look, guys, the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference? I don't know if it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden.
Sorry, had a cough there.
Because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is, well, anyway.
There you go, losing the train of thought. Look, folks, this is, anyway. Really? That's what we need, taking care of the nuclear power of our country. Anyway.
I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time. And find me a world leader who didn't think it was.
There are many of them out there. I would say, let's start with every one of them.
Next one. Sorry, Nancy Cordes, CBS.
Oh, that number 8 cough right there.
Yes.
Number 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned other instances in history where presidents have faced a challenge, but what makes this moment in history so unique is that it is not your enemies who are calling on you to reconsider your decision to stay in the race. It's your friends, supporters, people who think you've done a great job over the past 4 years. Have you spent time thinking about...
Are you listening to these questions, how they prop him up? Your supporters, the people who think that you've done a great job over the past 4 years. These are all softball questions, guys.
What it would mean for your legacy, which you've worked decades to build, if you stay in the race, despite the concerns that voters say they have, and you lose to someone who you yourself have argued is unfit to return to the Oval Office.
Well, look.
You know, that's a stall tactic right there. Anytime somebody starts a sentence with, well, look, and Newt Gingrich does that all the time. Well look, they're stalling. They're stalling to find the answer.
I'm not in this.
Did he not pause right after that? That's because he was trying to think of an answer. And he was looking down, reading it. Let's go back. He looks down to read the answer.
Spent time thinking about what it would mean for your legacy, which you've worked decades to build, if you stay in the race, despite the concerns that voters say they have, and you lose to someone who you yourself have argued is unfit to return to the Oval Office.
Well, look.
He's going to look down. He's going to start reading.
I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started.
And the job you started that you want to complete is the destruction of the United States of America.
As you recall, understandably, many of you and many economists thought my initial initiatives that I put forward.
My initial initiative is
Can't do that. It's going to cause inflation. Things are going to skyrocket. The debt's going to go up.
You mean like it already has done under you?
What are you hearing now?
What are you hearing now? Here comes a whisper. The drugs are wearing off, guys. The drugs are wearing off.
From mainstream economists. 16 economic Nobel laureates said I've done a hell of a job.
Name them. Show them to me. They don't exist.
And under my plan so far and what's going to happen in the future if I'm reelected, things are going to get much better. Our economy is growing. I was determined when I got elected to stop the trickle-down economic theory.
Now, trickle-down economics actually is true. It does work. You cut the big boys. Not this guy. He's not a big boy. I know it's a big boy conference, but he's not a big boy. The big boys, the ones that run industry and all the corporations. You cut them a break, they can make more money. They start hiring more people. More people start working. There's more money pumping into the economy. There's more taxes being collected. There's more income to the federal government as long as they cut the taxes on the corporations. They're not paying them anyway. There's so many loopholes, and they've got the money to get the great tax consultants to get them out of paying anything to begin with. So don't think that means squat.
If the wealthy did very well, everybody else would do well. My dad was a well-read, decent guy.
A well-read, decent guy.
I don't remember much trickling down on his kitchen table. Middle-class people and working-class people need help. And so what happened is I decided to implement what I was able to implement as president, what I believed when I was a senator. And that is that the way to build this economy is from the middle out and the bottom up.
Okay, let's hold on here for a second. Let's just think about what he just said. The way to build this economy is from the bottom up, the middle out, and the bottom up. So if you're on the bottom of the economy, under his type of idea, you'll work your way up. The bottom up, so you'll work your way up. You can't go to the top unless you hit the middle first. And it's middle out, bottom up. So you go from the bottom up to the middle. How do you get to the top? There's no way to get to the top because the middle will grow outwards, never more up, because it's from the bottom up and the middle out. It's not from the bottom up to the middle and the middle up. No. See what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's great. And people think, oh, that sounds so good. Just like Kamala Harris, who says, to be unburdened by what we can do. I forget how she said it. Anyway, I'll have to pull that up and put that in another video. But she said it multiple times.
That way, we grow the economy, and the wealthy still do very well. They do fine.
And they always will, no matter how many taxes you put on them. The middle class is who's going to suffer the more you tax the wealthy.
Guess what? I mean, mainstream economists have said we haven't done well. What have we not done that isn't working right now?
Everything.
And so we got more to do, though. We got to finish the job. And by the way, I come from the corporate state of the world. Delaware has more corporations registered in Delaware than every other state in the nation combined. I'm not anti-corporate, but corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. Doubled. It's time things get back in order a little bit. It's time, for example, if I'm reelected, we're going to make sure that rents are kept at 5% increase of corporate rents for apartments and the like. Like homes are limited to 5%. We're going to make a lot of changes that I've been talking about because we're going to continue to grow this economy. And by the way, remember how I got so roundly criticized for being so pro-union?
He always jumps in with, and by the way, look.
Labor, union. Well, guess what? I've been the most pro-union labor president in history.
Only kids and children use that phrase. Guess what? Why would you want me to guess? Why don't you just talk and tell me? Guess what?
Not a joke. And guess what?
Did he just say it again? Another childish statement.
We had the Treasury Department do a study. When unions do better, everybody does better.
And there's the whisper. There's the whisper again.
Everybody does better. And we talk about how, for example, when I went...
Oh, that was almost number 8. When I went, you almost had number 8 cough there. So we'll say 7.5.
Remember when we talked about getting the computer chip industry back in the United States? It used to be 40% of the industry. We invented the chip.
We invented the chip.
Talked about getting the computer chip industry back in the United States. Used to be 40% of the industry. We invented the chip.
The chip.
40% of the industry is in the United States.
Did you know that we invented the chip?
And former presidents decided that the best way to do it is find the cheapest labor in the world.
Which they did.
Send the product over there and import what the product was. And so what did I do? I was told not to go over to Europe. I mean, to Asia, including Europe, but Asia.
I was told not to go. People, where was I told not to go? I mean, I'm the president of the United States, and I'm told where I can go and where I cannot go. So where was I told not to go? I forget. Was it Asia? What was it? Oh, okay.
I remember going to South Korea, convincing them to invest $20 billion.
Convincing them to mess. Convincing them to mess. And mess.
I was told not to go over to Europe, I mean, to Asia, including Europe, but Asia. I remember going to South Korea, convincing them to invest
Convincing them to mess. What? How do you mess something? Can we look that up in the dictionary, people? Somebody over there, hey, staff, can you guys go ahead and look up the word mamess? See what the definition of that is so I can understand what this buffoon is talking about?
$20 billion in the United States to build computer chip factory.
Computer chips. Okay. You can't say the word computer chip?
And I asked why when they finally decided to do it.
His mask must be itching.
And the answer was because you have the safest economy in the world, and you have the best workers in the world. So the whole idea here is we've invested, there's been over $50 billion in investment in computer chip manufacturing just coming into being. None of you thought that would happen.
None of you thought that would happen. None of you thought that would happen. A whisper.
None of you thought that would happen. But it's happening. It's
There he goes, the mask itching again. He's sweating under the mask.
happening. It's going to grow economies. All through, and by the way,
And by the way,
red states and blue states. Matter of fact, there's as much in red states as blue states. I've made no distinction. So my generic point is that the idea that we can't continue to build and grow the economy, make it fair, like I said, from my standpoint, when the middle class does well, that's when the whole economy grows.
and the only way to get the middle class to do well is to allow the upper class to do well so they can provide more for the middle class to do. And now that's a whole other story. And I hate when people say another story. There's no such word as another. It's a whole other story. It's another story. But that's another story for another time. Talking about how economics works. But when the wealthy do well, the middle class does well.
However shot, the wealthy do well. The wealthy got to start paying their taxes.
And that's when they raise their prices, lay people off, close down plants, and still make the same amount of money and charge them more taxes. They don't pay any now. I mean, that's like gun laws. Let's make guns illegal. Really? Are criminals obeying the law? Only the law-abiding ones will obey the law.
Vice to serve on day one. Can you elaborate on that? What is it about her attributes and her accomplishments over the last 4 years?
What has Kamala Harris accomplished over the last 4 years? Let's see. She was given one job. That was the border. Okay. Are you following me here?
That make her ready to serve on day one if necessary.
First of all, the way she's handled the issue of freedom of women's bodies to have control over their bodies.
And that's another thing I have an issue with, another topic for another time. But women to have control over their bodies. I'm sorry, but that body inside you is not your body. That is another human being.
Secondly, her ability to handle almost any issue on the board.
Her ability to handle almost every issue on the border. She has not handled one issue on the border and has only been down to the border once, and it wasn't even a bad area of the border that she was at. It was a part that was already secured that she went to. Go on, keep explaining.
This was a hell of a prosecutor. She was
a hell of a prosecutor. The one who called for people to bail out Antifa after they burned down police stations, killed people, and rioted, and burned down businesses and destroyed businesses. She promoted to get them bailed out. Really? She's the one who put people in prison in California for little amounts of marijuana when marijuana is pretty much going legal now anyway. And that's a whole other story for another topic as well, why they outlawed marijuana and hemp. Okay, it's all about big business, industry, and money.
Was a first-rate person, and in the Senate she was really good.
A first-rate person says sense is really good.
I wouldn't have picked her unless I thought she was qualified to be president.
You didn't pick her because she was qualified to be president. You picked her because she said she was black when she's not black. Her family's Indian. She's not even a U.S. citizen. Because she wasn't. Her parents were not U.S. citizens when she was born. She's an anchor baby, and anchor babies are not supposed to be presidents or vice presidents. And that brings us back to Barack Obama, who was born in Kenya. Trust me, he was born in Kenya. That will eventually one day come out. So they don't care about the Constitution.
From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president.
Not.
That's why I picked her. Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most...
Oh, that's another half he just gave. So that takes us up to 8. We're now at 8 coughs.
...draining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
Yeah, they say he works from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Okay. And he has to take multiple breaks throughout that time because he can't stand working that long. He can't handle it. Okay. That's the type of president we need in this country when problems arise 24/7, 365. We need someone who had a bad day at a debate. Really? That was a debate with Donald Trump. What happens if you have a bad day with Putin, a bad day with Iran, a bad day with Hamas, a bad day with any country, nation out there, or terrorist? We cannot afford to have a president who has a bad day.
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look.
There he goes. Look, let's stall. Let's try to find a way out of this.
What I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of...
Okay, pace yourself. You're president of the most important person in the entire free world, and you want to pace yourself. I'm sorry, you do not have the luxury to do that.
Starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, started at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about.
He never said that.
I'm not talking about. And if you look at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate.
The campaign, the debate, a stupid mistake. Really, that's what we want. A president who admits he makes stupid mistakes. Okay, let's have this one running World War III. Okay?
I mean, my schedule has been full bore.
Your schedule's in full bore. You were off for 1 full week prior to the debate while they were drugging you up and testing you and arresting you and giving you the questions and you practicing the answers, okay? And you still had a bad day. Big mistake. Really? That's what we want out of our presidents. We want presidents who have bad days and make big mistakes. Okay. Vote for Joe Biden.
I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball?
Well, why not? Why not? He doesn't have to run the country. Not right now. But behind the scenes, he is now talking with leaders.
I mean, look.
Let me think. That's what look means.
Done virtually nothing.
Trump has done virtually nothing. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's another topic for another story. I can go spend a whole video on just the accomplishments of Trump.
And I don't know how many, don't hold me to it, roughly 20 major events. Someone with thousands of people showing up.
Thousands of people showing up. I'm sorry, I have to hold back my laugh on this one. Show me one event you have done since 2020 that had thousands of people showing up. Okay? And then let's just take the people that did show up and let's ask all your staffers to leave the room. Let's ask all the press to leave the room. And then let's see how many people are in that room. You couldn't even fill up 8 freaking circles when you were campaigning.
And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little bit. Pace myself.
Yeah, I want a president that can pace himself. I know you're homeless. I know the economy's going to crap. But give me time. I'm pacing myself, all right? Go ahead and kill yourself and let the rest of your family go homeless. I'll eventually get to you. I'm pacing myself here, people.
And the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling in the 15 time zones a week before.
You didn't travel 15 time zones a week before, okay? You came from overseas and you stayed at home for an entire week and rested, okay?
Anyway,
Anyway.
That's what it was about. That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that.
By the way, anyway, never mind.
I love my staff, but they add things.
There they go again. He's adding things. He's got to do that whisper. That's so creepy.
Add things all the time. Very end. I'm catching hell from my wife. Anyway.
Catching hell from my wife. You're the president of the United States. No, you're not actually. You're the resident. You weren't elected. But anyway. I forgot. I got to ask another question. Let me look down and see who I got to ask. Who I've been told I'm allowed to ask.
I'm sorry. Zeke Miller, Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions for you. First, on the NATO summit, President Zelensky, in your meeting with him, he pressed you to lift your limitations on the Ukrainian use of American weapons, saying that, in his public remarks afterwards, saying that Ukraine cannot win the war unless those limitations are lifted. Are you reconsidering your position on that? And then secondly, following up on Felicia's question there, leaders of your own party have said that they're not worried about that debate. They're worried about the next bad night and the bad night after that. How can you reassure the American people that you are up to the task and that there won't be more bad nights at a debate stage or somewhere else?
First thing about Zelensky asking for the ability to strike deep into Russia. We've allowed Zelensky to use American weapons in the near term, in the near or abroad, into Russia. Whether or not he should be attacked. For example, should Zelensky, he's not.
What? Well, they're attacking for example. But Zelensky, he's not. What? Can somebody translate that for me?
If he had the capacity to strike Moscow, strike the Kremlin, would that make sense? It wouldn't. The question is, what's the best use of the weaponry he has? The weaponry we're getting to him. I've gotten a more long-range capacity.
I got more long-range capacity,
as well as defensive capacity. And so our military is I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief.
He's following the advice of his commander-in-chief. I'm sorry. Who is the commander-in-chief? That would be the President of the United States. Biden. I think that's what they're claiming you are, the President of the United States. How can you follow the advice of your commander-in-chief when you're supposed to be the commander-in-chief?
chief of staff
The
for the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. And we're making a day-to-day basis on what they shouldn't go, how far they should go in.
they should how far they should go in.
That's a logical thing to do. Second question related to
I forgot. Can you repeat that question because my drugs are wearing off at the moment?
Sir, how can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or it's a matter of foreign policy?
well, I tell you what, best way to assure them is the way I assure myself,
A president needs to assure himself. Really?
and that is, am I getting the job done?
No, you're not.
Am I getting the job done?
Well, if you're talking about destroying the United States from within, yeah, I agree. You're getting the job done.
Can you name me somebody who's gotten more major pieces of legislation passed in 3.5 years?
Yeah, Donald Trump. Donald Trump has passed way more than you did. Ronald Reagan passed way more than you did, and your stuff has been that's been passed has been destroying this nation. So that's not an accomplishment.
I created 2,000 jobs just last week.
No. I'd say probably about 1,500 people got their jobs back.
So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet.
There's no indication you're slowing down. Really. You fall down at an Air Force event onto the floor, trip up the steps. You got to use the little boy stairs to get out of an airplane. You can't find your way off of the stage. You try to shake hands with people who aren't there. You ask for people in the audience, where are you? After it was just announced they died. Really?
None. What do we got here?
Who else am I allowed to call on?
Pulaski Radio.
Thank you, Mr. President. How are you?
I'm well.
I'm demented.
The elections in the US have consequences around the world. You have pretty high standing in Europe. I just asked President Macron about you, and he said we are happy to have him as the President of the United States. But there is a concern. Many people in Poland and across Europe are worried that the former president may win the election. And
They are worried because Trump won't go along with the New World Order agenda, at least not right away. Don't worry, I'm not a major Trump fan, okay? I do have a lot of questions about Trump, but I'm not going to get into those. They don't want Trump because Trump is talking about stopping the New World Order, and Biden is giving the New World Order away.
there's a lot of concern that Donald Trump may weaken NATO, stop
Hopefully he will.
supporting Ukraine,
Hopefully he will.
or push Ukraine to give up territories to Russia.
They're correct.
And you
No, that's not what Trump said.
yourself was warning just 2 minutes ago about it. So my question is, do you think that Europe will be left on its own if Donald Trump wins the election? And what's your advice to European leaders to prepare for possible US disengagement?
Well,
Look. Stall tactic. Let me look down. Where's the notes? I saw this question here somewhere. I couldn't even find this guy's name when I needed to call him. Where's that question? Let me read the answer. Let me get the answer here. Yes.
I think, how can I say this without
How can I find this when I can't see what I'm reading?
sounding too self-serving? I'm not having any of my European allies come up to me and say, Joe, don't run. What I hear them say is, you've got to win.
There's the whisper.
You can't let this guy come forward. It'd be disaster. It'd be disaster. I mean, I think he said in one of his rallies, don't hold me to this, recently, where NATO, I just learned about NATO or something to that effect.
No, he did not say that.
Foreign policy has never been his strong point. And
Really? He brought peace to the entire planet. Nobody was at war. Foreign policy's never been his strong suit, so to speak. Huh? Really? He got Arab nations to agree to peace with Israel. Really? No, foreign policy was not his strong suit. Really? He talked to Kim Jong-un and crossed over into the demilitarized zone. Yeah, foreign policy, no, that just was not his strong suit. He got Japan to pay up. He got South Korea to pay up. He got China to pay up. He got all the Baltic nations to pay up and start paying their fair share. You know, you're right. Foreign policy was never his strong suit.
he seems to have an affinity to people who are authoritarian. That worries, as I tell you, Poland, that worries Europe. That worries Poland. And nobody, including the people of Poland, think that if he wins in Ukraine, he's going to stop in Ukraine. That's going to be the end of it. And so, what I can say...
That mask is itching again. Man, get me out of here. Drugs are wearing off and the mask is itching. I got to get out of here.
...is, I think I'm the best qualified person to do the job. To make sure that Ukraine does not fall, that Ukraine succeeds.
You know, Ukraine's not even a nation with actual borders. I don't know if people are aware of that. It's not. It's still a property of Russia.
That the European alliance stays strong. You may recall.
Oh, you may recall. Okay, so what are we at? 9? 9, that makes that, though, at 9.5?
No one was talking about Finland joining NATO. I remember talking to Putin right after we got elected in Geneva. And he was talking about what we should do. We couldn't be in Eastern Europe, etc.
What we should do, where happens in Eastern Europe, etc.
And I said, you're looking for the Finlandization of Ukraine, because you can get the NATOization of Finland. And about 4 weeks later, I got a call. Well, that's not true. Probably 5 months later, from the president of Finland, could he come and see me? Get in my office. I invited him to the Oval Office. We sat down and talked. He said he wanted to join NATO. Could I help? And I did. It wasn't automatic. And then I got a call from the Swedes.
Uh-oh. Spacing. What was I talking about?
I beg your pardon? And so Finland joined NATO. 800-mile border is significant. And they were already allies, but they weren't part of NATO. And you heard, I think you heard, maybe, I can't recall whether you said a public...
I can't recall. That's what we want. President who can't recall, who has a bad night. Yep, that's what we want.
In a closed meeting, but he wouldn't mind being repeated. He said, we decided in Finland, the people of Finland decided they had to be part of NATO. It was in our interest because of the joint ability to be together.
The people of no nation actually vote on anything. The quote-unquote leaders are not leaders. They're dictators. They do what they want. It's over 70% of the nation wants the United States out. Stop spending money in Ukraine. But what are they doing? They still keep giving more money. And that's the Republicans as well. Mike Johnson is the one signed off on it. And I told everybody when Mike Johnson was coming in that they were voting on him. I said, no. There is nobody that will not do this business as usual. And I was right. Mike Johnson is a snake just like the rest of them.
Just dissuade any attack on Finland. And the same thing with Sweden. It took a lot of selling to some folks, particularly in Turkey and other places, to agree to the expansion. But it expanded. And we're a hell of a lot stronger because of it. We're more secure because of it. And by the way,
well, anyway,
I was able to get 50 other nations, 50, to support Ukraine. 50. We were able to bring about a coalition of Europe and Asia, Japan and South Korea. I just met we talked about AUKUS. We talked about the relationship between Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, the United States. We're making the world safer and stronger.
making the world safer and stronger while we are on the verge of World War III since you stole the office and done the coup and committed treason. Now we're safer that we're on the verge of World War III. I can see that logic.
Because we have to deal with the new arrangement that exists in the world.
That mask is itching them still. They got to get him out of there. That mask they're telling him is just itching, and the drugs are wearing off.
The Cold War is over. The post-war era is over. What is going to replace it?
The New World Order. One world government, one world currency, one world religion, and everybody else that disagrees gets put in internment camps for re-education.
And I respectfully suggest I have a pretty good idea what that should be. I've convinced a lot of people to follow it. We're just going to get stronger. David Sanger.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Be nice, David.
Mr. President, the NATO declaration that was issued yesterday was very notable because it described China as a decisive enabler of the war in Ukraine for its provision of critical goods to the Russians. That's part of a broader partnership that seems to have cemented in place in the past 2 or 3 years. I think one that you were a little bit doubtful of when we asked you about it some time ago. So I'd be interested to know whether you have a strategy now of trying to interrupt the partnership between China and Russia. And whether or not in a second term you would pursue that, if you could describe that strategy to us. And along the way, could you also tell us whether you think, just to follow up on Felicia's question, that if you were in a room with Vladimir Putin again, the way you were 3 years ago, or with President Xi, that a few years from now you will be able to go negotiate with them, handle them one-on-one?
Well, the first part of the question is, we discussed and I raised...
And let me look down and read what the first part of your question was, because I got your question right here.
In the NATO summit, and others raised, the future of China's involvement, what they're going to do, what they're doing with Russia in terms of accommodating, facilitating, they're getting access to additional, they're not supplying weapons themselves, they're supplying mechanisms for them to be able to get weapons.
Oh, that was almost 10. You almost coughed number 10.
And China's position is basically, and I've spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader.
I spent more time with Xi Jinping.
Over 90 hours since being vice president all the way through, for real. And by the way, I handed all my notes. But my point is that...
Got to look at my notes, because I can't remember. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm looking down at my notes and trying to remember what this question was and how to answer it.
She believes that China is a large enough market that they can entice any country, including European countries, to invest there in return for commitments from Europe to do A, B, C, or D, or not to do certain things. What's happened is we had a long discussion about what we cannot, we have to make clear, China has to understand that if they are supplying Russia.
Well, we cannot, we have to make China understand. What? Well, we cannot what?
information and capacity, along with working with North Korea and others to help Russia in armament, that they're not going to benefit economically as a consequence of that by getting the kind of investment they're looking for.
And how are you going to make them not benefit economically through sanctions? You mean the things that you're saying that Trump has destroyed this country with sanctions, and you're going to use sanctions? By the way, the sanctions were so bad that you say Trump destroyed us because of it. Well, then why do you still have the sanctions Trump put on China there?
And so, for example, we're in a situation where, and we've reestablished direct contact with China after that. Remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down?
That balloon was a satellite. That's all it was. And satellites are actually satelloons. There's no space. There are no satellites floating up in space, traveling at thousands of miles an hour, and that never need maintenance. Okay, yeah. Name one thing this world, these humans have ever made that's mechanical, that never needs maintenance. Really? No, these are satellites that are on balloons. And they did not want you to know that, so they called it a Chinese spy satellite. It was a normal satellite that was losing its inflation and starting to come down. So they let it go to where it went out to sea so nobody could recover and find out that it was an actual NASA satellite that is on a balloon.
Sudden thing came to an end. Well, we set up a new mechanism. There's a direct line between Xi and me, and our military has direct access to one another, and they contact one another when we have problems. The issue is that you have to make sure that Xi understands there's a price to pay for undercutting both the Pacific Basin as well as Europe, and it relates to Russia and dealing with Ukraine. And so we, for example, if you want to invest in China, as you know this area really well. Trying to invest in China, you have to have a 51% Chinese owner.
51% Chinese owner if you want to invest in China. Let's think about that for just a second, right? Okay, if that is a fact, which I don't know because I don't do world trade, okay, and I don't do international business. But let's just go with what he said. China has to have 51% ownership if you want your company to do business in China. So does Microsoft do business in China? So who owns China then? I mean, who owns Microsoft then? Boy, Biden's got me screwing up now. If China must have a 51% of every business that's operating out of China, in China, that means China owns all those businesses. So then who owns Microsoft? If Microsoft is doing business in China. Oh wait, Apple. Apple does business in China. Auto industries do business in China. Joe Blow up here on the stage that you're looking at right now does business in China. His son does business in China. So who owns him and who owns his son? He just told you who owns them.
You have to make sure that you do by their rules.
So you have to play by their rules there, Joe. Geriatric Joe and Hunter. You've got to do what China tells you to do to this country. Because, hey, they own 51% of you.
And you don't have the authority, and you have to provide all access to all the data and information you have.
You have to provide access to all the data and information you have. Okay. So Microsoft and Apple and all them have given over all their secrets to China and are now owned by China, according to him. And him and his son do business in China. His whole family does business in China. So that he's just telling you right there that China owns him. He has to play by their rules, do what they say. Okay? So he's telling you right now who owns him.
Really well. Trying to invest in China, you have to have a 51% Chinese owner. You have to make sure that you do by their rules, and you don't have the authority, and you have to provide all access to all the data and information you have.
So he's providing China with all the data and access to all the information that he has, including top secret, classified, black ops, everything. You know, the stuff they left in boxes all over the place in Chinatown, in his garage, next to his Corvette. You know, he's supplying China with all the information.
There was a while there, as you recall, in the last administration and other administrations, where the access to that market was enticing enough to get companies to come in because they had access to over 1 billion people in a market.
Market?
Not a billion, a lot of people in the market.
Well, not 1 billion, but, you know, a lot of people.
And so they were doing it. But that got curtailed.
Got curtailed.
When we started saying we're going to play by the same rules. For example, the idea they don't abide by the international rules related to subsidizing products by the government funding. So guess what? They're not
Guess what? Another childish statement.
going to be able to export their electric vehicles to the United States without a significant tariff.
Wait. I thought tariffs were bad, sanctions were bad, and Trump was ruining the country due to those.
Others are doing the same thing around the world. But it is a concern. It is a concern that you have both China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, countries that are not necessarily coordinated in the past, looking to figure out how they can have impact.
Impact?
Yes, I do, but I'm not prepared to talk about the detail of it in public. And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. I mean, in China.
Their investment in Russia.
As long as China continues to have this indirect help to Russia.
As long as China has its continued help for Russia. What?
In terms of being able to help their economy as well as help them in, as a consequence of that, their ability to fight in Ukraine.
Drugs are almost wore off. People, get him out of there.
The other thing that we talked a lot about is that, and I raised it, and I didn't hear any. I can't swear that everyone agreed because not everyone got to talk about it. But we need a new industrial policy in the West. For example, we talked about how both the EU as well as NATO has to be able to begin to build their own munition capacity, has to be able to generate their own capacity to provide for weapons and the ability to, it came as a surprise to some of us how we had fallen behind in the West in terms of the ability to construct new material, new weaponry.
And the reason for that is 8 years of Barry sending our jobs overseas and surrendering our sovereignty. That's what happened. They were supposed to have 8 years of Hillary after that, which would have had us in World War III.
New everything from vehicles to weapon systems. And so one of the things that came out of this was we're going to be meeting again with a number of my colleagues, my European colleagues, is what do we do to increase the capacity of the West, particularly in Europe and Japan, to be able to generate kind of ability to produce their own weapon systems. Not just for themselves, but to be able to generate that. It's the same, that's what Russia's trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go ahead and teach everybody how to arm themselves to the teeth so that they can get better and stronger than the U.S. That's perfect plan. Perfect plan.
They went to China
Let them figure it out on their own.
They didn't get the weapons, but then they went to North Korea. But we're going to be in a position where the West is going to become the industrial base for it to be able to, the ability to have all the defensive weapons that we need. That was the discussion as well.
Ready to go deal with Putin and Xi 2 or 3 years from now?
He's not ready to deal with any of them now.
I'm ready to deal with them now, and
No, you're not. No, you're not. Zelensky comes over and says, "Give me more money." Okay, I'll give you more money. Russia? Oh, I'm not talking to him. I'm scared of him. I'm not talking to Putin.
3 years from now. Look,
Look, stall for time to figure out the answer. Try to remember where you're at. Okay, I think I'm in a press conference.
like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior. And but there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with.
You just said you're not prepared to deal with Putin. And then you say in the same breath, there's not a world leader I'm not prepared to deal with.
But I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem.
And the idea, look, I lost my train of thought. I got to come up with something else.
First of all, in this war that he is supposedly have won, by the way,
And he is winning big time.
I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory.
17.3, like I said, 17.4.
They've not been very successful.
Russia has not been very successful. Are you kidding me? Ukraine is kidnapping men off the streets, slamming them in vans, handcuffing them, throwing them in vans and putting them in uniform, throwing them a weapon and sending them out on the line. Because they've run out of people and soldiers because Russia's been killing them all. Yeah, they haven't been very successful, have they?
They've caused horrible damage, loss of life. But they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military.
Yeah, let's look at the number of Ukrainians that died.
Killed or wounded. They have over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability,
Capability.
leaving Russia because they see no future there.
Sorry, that's Ukraine. They are fleeing Ukraine, going to Poland. You know how many Ukrainian refugees are in Poland because they don't want to be part of that war? Ukrainians aren't into this. This is not a Ukrainian people's war. This is a New World Order's war. They've got to protect Ukraine because Ukraine is the capital of money laundering and child trafficking. Okay? Ukraine is the hub. It is the capital. And if Ukraine falls and they find all the documentation and information, our entire government and the entire world's government will collapse. Every country in the world will see that their leaders were part of it. They're leaders, and I use that term loosely because they are not leaders, they're politicians. But that's the whole reason why they've got to protect Ukraine. With your money, by the way, your money, whether you want it or not, your money's going to pay for it.
They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on.
The public outcry about mechanisms that they use to communicate with people. What the heck does that mean? Did Kamala Harris, word salad queen, give you that line?
And, And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, we're not stopping Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is.
It wasn't about just, lost my train of thought, shit. Anyway.
And anyway.
Anyway. I don't know what I was talking about. I forgot. So anyway.
So I think that I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk.
Anyway, as long as they want to talk. So anyway. Yeah. Whatever.
Including if Putin called me and wanted to talk. Last time I talked to Putin was trying to get him to work on an arms control agreement related to nuclear weapons in space. That didn't go very far. So my point is, I'm prepared to talk to anybody, but I don't see any inclination.
Even after you admit that you talking to somebody doesn't get you very far. Okay, you just admitted you're incompetent, and you try to make the point that you're competent by stating that you're incompetent. Okay, gotcha.
There is an inclination on the part of the Chinese to keep in contact with me, because they're not sure where this all goes. And look what's happened in Asia. We have strengthened the Asian Pacific area more than anybody else has.
Okay, explain how.
We just put together today, I brought on, I asked our NATO ally.
The mask is really itching. It's starting to come up under my collar, guys. Is there anybody come out here and fix this thing for me?
That we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia.
Australia? How many times you bring Australia in?
I already mentioned Australia.
I already remember that. Australia.
Twice now, I think, with the 14 leaders of the Pacific Island nations. And we've slowed down what's going on there. We've slowed down China's reach. But there's a lot of work to do. This is a moving target. And I don't take it lightly. Sam from NPR.
Gotta make sure you get the Muslim in there. Not Peter Doocy. Make sure you get the Muslim in. Bump Peter Doocy. Put the Muslim in.
Thank you, Mr. President. Asma Khalid with NPR. I have two questions. Earlier, you spoke about the ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas. We're now looking at 10 months of war. And I'm curious if there's anything that you feel personally you wish you would have done differently over the course of the war. And then secondly, if I may, I wanted to ask you about your presidential campaign. I remember covering your campaign in 2020, and there was a moment where you referred to yourself as a, quote, bridge candidacy, a transition to a younger generation of leaders. I want to understand what changed.
Two things. Let's go back to when you talked about would I have changed anything that's happening with Israel and the Palestinians and the Palestinian movement. The answer is, as you recall, from the very beginning, I went to Israel, but I also got immediate contact with Sisi in Egypt. I met with the King of Jordan. I met with most of the Arab leaders.
Basically, the reason why he said I met with this guy, I met with this guy, and I met with most of the Arab leaders. He doesn't remember their names.
To try to get a consensus going as to what had to be done to deal with getting more aid and food and medicine into the Gaza Strip. And we pushed it really hard. And Israel occasionally was less than cooperative, number one. The Israeli War Cabinet, I've been dealing with Israel since Golda Meir. Some of the reporters around here cover me all the time have heard me say this. The first time I met with Golda Meir, I sat across from her at her desk, and her assistant was Rabin sitting next to me. That's how far back I go. I know Israel well. I support Israel. But This war cabinet is one of the most conservative war cabinets in the history of Israel. And there's no ultimate answer other than a two-state solution. And so what was able to be done in terms of the
Oh, that mask is itching. That mask is itching.
process for a two-state solution. And we get the Arab nations to, particularly from Egypt all the way to Saudi Arabia, to be in a position where they would cooperate in the transition so that they could keep the peace in Gaza without Israeli forces staying in Gaza. The question has been from the beginning, what's the day after in Gaza?
Well, little do people realize, it was after World War II. The Rothschilds gave Palestine land. They gave Palestinian land to Israel. And Israel's been slowly but surely invading and taking over all of the land. Okay? That's not, these Jews are not God's chosen people. These are Zionists who worship Satan. And their whole goal is to take over. Okay? I don't know if you know it or not, but the Jews are the ones that started World War II. Okay? By boycotting Hitler and Germany and all German products, because Hitler did not take any money from the global bankers. His country was falling apart before he took over. It was into pornography, sexual exploitation on the streets. You know, just like what the United States is now. Okay? And he decided, no, we cannot have this kind of garbage in our society. And he took all the pornographic books and burned them. That's the book burning that you saw, that you hear about in history. And he got rid of all that. And then he needed to rebuild the country, so he initiated his own currency and had people build businesses within Germany to create products with utilizing Germany's own currency. And they did not take any loans from the Rothschilds banking system. And they were coming out of garbage, and they were becoming really, really prosperous. Well, the Rothschilds, who are Jews, could not handle that. They said, no, you didn't take our money, so we can put you in debt and have you under our thumb, so we're going to stop this. Well, let's try boycotting all your products first around the world. And that started happening. It started hurting Germany. And then they were attacked. And Germany, Hitler put out so many different memos to Winston Churchill. Hey, we don't want to be attacked. We don't want a war. Let's talk about this. And Winston Churchill kept saying, no conversation. And then when the war was going on, Hitler said, I think it was 5 times, he sent like 5 letters to Winston Churchill. We need a ceasefire. Let's talk about this. And Winston Churchill, just like they're saying with Israel right now, no ceasefire. We will not finish until we're done. Until it's completed. And they talk about 6 million Jews being wiped out in World War II under Hitler. There weren't even 6 million Jews in Germany at the time. Matter of fact, during the Second World War, Germans had Jews in the army. There were no gas chambers there. That's been proven. Okay, the gases that they said to be used would have been sucked into and soaked into the concrete, and there was no traces of it anywhere. Open light bulbs that would have exploded the gas in those chambers. I mean, it's all a lie, guys. Everything's all a lie. Let's get back to this. I got a little off track there.
The day after in Gaza has to be, the end of the day after has to be no occupation by Israel and the Gaza Strip, as well as the ability for us to access, get in and out as rapidly as you can, all that's needed.
Basically, the reason why I went on that tirade there is because the Jews are the ones that are causing all the problems. The Jews own the world banking system. The world banking system owns every country. And when a country is not owned by the world banking system, owned by the Jews, well then, the United States is called in because of terrorists and weapons of mass destruction. Blow them up. And then we'll get them. First thing we'll do is we'll get them on the world banking system. To rebuild their country. We're just trying to be nice. Boom. Got them. And what happened in World War II, the start of the World War II, is exactly what is happening now. And it's happening with the same group of people. The Zionist Jews are still doing the exact same thing. Hey, it worked the first time. It worked the second time. Now we need to make it work for the third and final time.
I've been disappointed that some of the things that I've put forward have not succeeded as well, like the port reattached from Cyprus. I was hopeful that would be more successful.
Oh, I wasn't successful. I was hoping that would be more successful. That's the other thing we want from our president, who has thoughts of things that aren't successful and spends billions of dollars of taxpayer money in other countries for something that's never successful. That's what I want my president. Yes. I want my president to have bad days, forget things, and not be successful. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
But that's why when I went to Israel immediately after the massacres that occurred at the hands of Hamas.
The massacre that occurred at the hands of the CIA, Hamas, and Israel. Israel created Hamas. People, look up your history. Don't Google it. You'll never get the right history. You'll only get what they want you to hear. Hamas is Israel. It's called controlled opposition.
One thing I said to the Israelis, and met with the War Cabinet and with Bibi, don't make the same mistake America made after bin Laden. There's no need to occupy anywhere. Go after the people who did the job. You may recall, I still get criticized for it, but...
And by the way, bin Laden did not do 9/11. He even said, I'm glad it happened, but I had nothing to do with it. He even said so. Besides, bin Laden was a CIA operative. He was a member of the CIA. He's still alive. He no longer has a beard. He's got short hair, no mustache, nothing. Clean cut. I don't know where he's living right now, but he was a CIA operative. He did what he was supposed to do, and they paid him off, and he's living in luxury right now.
I was totally opposed to the Occupy Afghanistan.
Excuse me.
Bin Laden, we should have moved on because it was not.
They didn't move on because they wanted the poppy fields for the drugs. The CIA wanted those drugs.
No one's ever going to unite that country. I've been over every inch of that, not every inch, the entirety from the poppy fields all the way to the north.
Oh, did he mention poppy fields? Wasn't that what I was just talking about? That's the first thing he mentioned. Got to secure them poppy fields. We got to get that cocaine out.
So don't make the same mistake we made. Don't think that's what you should be doing, is doubling down. We'll help you find the bad guys, Sinwar and Company. And all this criticism about I wouldn't provide when the weapons they needed.
What is Sinwar and Company? Can somebody inform me on that? Right there, it says Sinwar and Company. That's what I thought I heard he said. Can somebody inform me, because I'm ignorant on what in the world that's supposed to mean?
I'm not providing the 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or any populated area without causing great human tragedy and damage. But remember what happened when you had the attack on Israel with rockets and ballistic missiles. I was able to unite the Arab nations as well as Europe. And nothing happened. Nothing got hurt. It sent an incredible lesson to what was going on from the Middle East. So there's a lot of things, in retrospect, I wish I had been able to convince the Israelis to do. But the bottom line is we have a chance now. It's time to end this war. Doesn't mean walk away from going after Sinwar and...
End this war? You mean like you did in Afghanistan by pulling the troops out first, getting 13 troops killed, many others severely wounded with missing arms, destroyed faces, missing legs, and all the other civilians that were killed and hostages still over there? You mean that's how you want to end it? That's called retreating and called losing. Not to mention leaving $85 billion worth of brand new equipment, the most advanced equipment in the world, military equipment, and handing it over to Afghanistan and the Taliban. Now the Taliban are the second largest arms dealers in the world because they're selling the U.S. military weapons to mercenaries and other countries. These are our weapons that we built under Donald Trump that will be used to kill Americans and United States citizens all across the world.
And if you notice, you know better than most, there is a growing dissatisfaction on the West Bank from the Palestinians about Hamas. Hamas is not popular now. And so there's a lot of moving parts. I just have to keep moving to make sure that we
Keep that moving.
get as much done as we can toward a ceasefire, and get those. And by the way,
We need a ceasefire to get those. And by the way, that means I forgot what I was saying.
look at the numbers in Israel. I mean, my numbers are better in Israel than they are here. But then again, they're better than a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
But anyway, let me look down at my notes. Where was I supposed to be?
Candidacy in 2020, you referred to yourself as being a bridge candidate for a younger, fresher generation of Democratic leaders, and I wanted to know what changed.
What changed was the gravity of the situation I inherited.
You inherited a peaceful world, a great economy, secure border. What was the gravity of that situation you inherited?
In terms of the economy, our foreign policy.
Economy was booming. Foreign policy, peace around the world.
And domestic division.
Domestic division. There was none. There was none. Obama brought about division. Trump started bringing everybody back.
And I think, I won't put words in anybody's mouth. Most presidential historians give me credit for having accomplished more than most any president since Johnson and maybe before that.
Really? Why don't you name those, your accomplishments? Let's name your accomplishments, and let's name Trump's accomplishments. I can rattle off a whole bunch of Trump's accomplishments. I can rattle off a whole bunch of Reagan's accomplishments. I can't think of one thing you've done that was accomplished that's a good thing. Not one. Who are these historians?
Get major piece of legislation passed.
Name them.
What I realized was my long time in the Senate had equipped me.
A long time in the Senate where you didn't do anything but put flat back above that. And now I'm starting to talk like him. I'm telling you, I've been around him too long, studying this guy too long. But one of your accomplishments in the Senate was you started putting the majority of black people in prison by calling them super predators. You recall that there, Geriatric Joe?
To have the wisdom on how to deal with the Congress to get things done. We got more major legislation passed.
Legislation. Got more legislation passed. How do you spell that? How do you spell legislation?
No one thought would happen. And I want to finish it, to get that finished. If tomorrow, if we had a circumstance where there was a lineup and hadn't inherited what I did and we just moved things along. Anyway.
If tomorrow we had a lineup and I didn't do what I did and we hadn't moved things along. Anyway. What? What? Can somebody translate that for me, please?
It's going to change.
Oh, it's going to change, all right.
Last question.
Now, they just said last question. So now he's going to look down and he's going to call on somebody, but he's out of order on who he called. He needs to call somebody else first. So watch this. He's got to do what he's told to do.
Haley Bull, Scripps. Or no, Josh Weingrove. I'm sorry.
Oops, I misread where I was at.
What's the next one? I'll do two more questions.
And I'll do two more questions because that's what's on his list, what he's told to do. And now the reporter, the people that are running this are saying, we got to get him off the stage. The dude, the drugs are wearing off. He's falling apart. He's rambling on. Let's get him off the stage. Make this one the last question. And that's when they said, last question. And that's when he looks down and says, well, I've got 2 more here on my cue card. I have to call on 2 more. So he says, 2 more questions. And the people behind the scenes are face palming right now saying, damn, can we get this guy off stage now?
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of your colleagues, Democrats on the Hill, are watching tonight as they assess what they want to say about your candidacy. I'm wondering how you're thinking of this right now. It seems like your answer is clear. But they're watching how things go tonight, tomorrow in Michigan, next week in Texas and Nevada. Are you thinking that way about whether how the next week or 2 goes would inform your
Am I using that way, you said?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision, or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I really...
I'm determined on running. Determined. Okay, because somebody looked that word up in a dictionary. Staff, can you guys look that up in a dictionary? Determined? Get that definition over to me, okay? As soon as you can. As soon as you find it, get it on over to me. All right, determined. I want to know what determined means.
I allay fears. Let them see me out there. Let me see them out, for the longest time it was.
Let me see them see me, them out, and see me, them see out there.
Biden's not prepared to sit with us.
Wyden's not prepared for what? Who's Wyden? Who's Wyden, and what's he not prepared for?
Time it was. Biden's not...
Wyden. W-I-D-E-N. Wyden. Who's Wyden?
Prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to...
Wyden again. Who's Wyden again?
But anyway.
But anyway, I don't know who Wyden is. So anyway, where were we?
And so what I'm doing is what I've been doing. I think we've done over 20 major events, from Wisconsin to North Carolina. Anyway.
Yeah, 20 major events. Can you name them? I haven't seen him do 20 major events. Well, anyway, it was a lie. So anyway, where were we?
To demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win, where we can persuade people to move our way, or people are already there. Yeah.
People already there. I can't even say it the way he said it. People already there.
Look, the other thing is, we have...
Mask is itchy. Come on, guys. Let me get these questions done. I'm really itchy and sweaty, and the drugs are wearing off. I got to get out of here.
The most extensive campaign organization if anybody's had in a long, long time. We have well over 1,000 volunteers knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls. We have headquarters. I forget exactly how many. I don't want to cite a number and then find out I'm all. We have scores of headquarters in all the toss-up states. We're organized. We're moving. And that's awful hard to replace in the near term. And here's the other thing.
And so, what was I talking about? Well, here's the other thing.
I was in the Senate a long time. Very proud of what I've done in the Senate.
Yeah, well, name what you've done. Come on, name it. Name one thing you've done, and let's see how good it was. Let's see what the outcome of what you've done was.
I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for a long time, and I was chairman or ranking member and chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I'm going to be going down to the Johnson Library. Anyway,
I'm going down to the library. Anyway, I was about to tell him I want to check out the latest book on Dr. Seuss.
I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish and how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide on civil rights, civil liberties, women's rights. That little button we have.
Women's rights. Let's put men to play against women in their sports. That's perfect for women's rights. Yes. Let's uphold women's rights. Okay, good job there, Joe boy.
Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea we're sitting around this.
Control guns. Let's look at every state that's got the highest gun control. let's start with Illinois, California, and New York. Where's the highest gun violence in this nation? Illinois, California, and New York. Huh. Yep. That seems to be working.
The comment was so good as well. Who's sitting around? More children.
Here comes the anger. Now we're going to get angry. And here's where he's wrong on this one, too.
Are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death.
Really? That's what you say. Let's see. Not that one. That's not what we wanted. This is the one we wanted. More children are killed by a bullet than any other cause. Claimed during this Thursday night presser, President Joe Biden claimed that more children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. Verdict, false. This is a regurgitation of an ongoing false leftist claim that guns are the #1 killer of children via fact checks. Breitbart News has shown again and again that in making this claim, the left counts people of voting age, ages 18 to 19, as children. Okay, I'm here to tell you, cancer causes more children than bullets. Okay, I can tell you that right now. There's so many other reasons why children die, that fentanyl, drugs, and everything else. It's not by a bullet. That is not the #1. So there's another lie by Geriatric Joe.
The United States of America.
Yeah, get angry, man.
What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, what the hell are we doing? That's what you're asking yourself every day when you look in the mirror. What the hell are you doing?
What are we doing? We got a candidate promised the NRA, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything.
We got a candidate promises, I'm not going to do anything. What was that?
I'm not going to do anything. We got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history.
As it should be, because we need a court that will uphold the Constitution and not put their own personal interpretation into it.
This is ridiculous. There's so much we can do still. And I'm determined to get it done. It's about freedom. By the way.
It's about freedom. So much we could do. So much we have to get done. It's about freedom. Oh, by the way.
I'll end this. Well, I'm not going to do that, Haley.
Well, I'm going to end this, but wait. I can't end this. I was told to answer all these questions.
Yes, it has to come up too. But I remember. I made a speech on democracy.
We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Democracy means mob rules. That means that if 5 people wanted your bicycle and they took it, they could take it legally. That is democracy, whether they owned it or not. Mob rules, majority rules, 5 to 1, they have the right to take it. That's democracy. We are a constitutional republic. It's similar to a democracy, but it's based upon the individual's rights. Okay? That means if 5 people want your bicycle, but you own that bicycle, you have the right to that bicycle, and they cannot legally take it from you. Okay? We are not a democracy. Even Trump says we're a democracy, and I want to smack him every time. We are not a democracy. Hannity says it all the time. Hannity's a goofball. And then we got Tucker, who says it all the time. Tucker is the most amazing, best controlled opposition they got out there. He's not one of you guys. He's not one of you guys who believe in the Constitution of the United States. No, he's not. He says he's a Christian. No, he's not. Okay? He's a controlled oppositionist right now.
Philadelphia, Independence Hall. And I'm not being critical, just observing. The bulk of the press, what the hell is he talking about that for? Democracy. You did. Democracy is not an issue.
We are not a democracy.
Democracy is not an issue.
We are not a democracy.
accept the polling data showed 60% of the people knew I was right.
And you know what? What I'm asking each and every one of you that watches, that took the time to watch this. Well, thank you for watching, by the way. We're getting close to the end. All right. So, depending on how much more narration I put in here. But we are not a democracy. And anytime you see a post in any social media anywhere, I want you all to please jump in and just type in all caps. We are not a democracy! Exclamation, 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 exclamation. And that's it. Just put that in every time you see it. Let's get this in people's heads. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Big difference.
Thought I was right. I'm not asking you a question. You don't have to answer, obviously. Do you think our democracy is under siege
We are not a democracy.
based on this court?
Any politician, including Trump, that calls us a democracy does not have the right to be a politician. Show me the word democracy in any of our founding documents. It does not exist. Matter of fact, the founding fathers stated democracy is disastrous. That's why we are not a democracy. So if you're a politician and you're supposed to defend the Constitution and you don't realize that nowhere in that Constitution does it say the word democracy and you're calling us a democracy, you have no right to be a politician. You need to be thrown out immediately and banned from holding public office ever again, even dog catcher.
Do you think democracy is under siege based
We are not a democracy.
on Project 2025? Do you think he means what he says when he says he's going to do away with the civil service, eliminate the Department of Education, make sure? I mean,
We need to eliminate the Department of Education because I'm here to tell you, since we were, I don't know, number 3 in education worldwide, something like that. Don't hold me to the stats. I'm not a stats kind of guy. But since we started the Department of Education and funneled trillions of dollars into the Department of Education, we are now like number 3 from the bottom of the barrel of the world in education. Yep, great job. Throw money at it. They're not throwing money at education. That's just how they launder money through all these different agencies, EPA, education, you name it, any kind of organization that's out there, Cancer Society, everything, all these charities, Red Cross, Salvation Army. These are just government entities that are utilized to funnel money back into their pockets. Okay. So that's all that's about. So the Department of Education needs to be dismantled and thrown away with, and let the states handle each educational situation.
we've never been here before. And that's the other reason why I didn't say it off to another generation. We've got to finish this job. We've got to finish this job. Because there's so much at stake.
You've had some discussions over the past few days with your press secretary about the question of health exams. And
I apologize for the volume levels of this. There were some technical issues I was having.
said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look,
and Governor Whitmer. Oh my gosh, are we talking about another Ways case?
2 things. 1, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist.
I'm mentally fit. I've taken 3 exam. See, proved to you, I'm fit.
In each case, as recently as February, and they say I'm in good shape. Okay, although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot.
I'm so glad you told us that. Why don't you tell us again about how they rub the hairs on your legs, your blonde hairs, they stand up and then you make them come right back up again, and how you love kids jumping on your lap. Okay, keep going.
But I'm good. I'm tested every single day. about my neurological capacity to do decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff and I said, I'm going to go to South Korea, we're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II. I'm going to move and see that we can expand. You know, the only thing.
I'm going to move to see if we can expand. Crap, I forgot what I was going to say. You know, the only thing.
Age does is help you with it. Creates a little bit of wisdom.
Crates.
If you pay attention. And so the point I'm making is, I think it's important that if the neurologist.
That what was I saying?
Just tells me he thinks I need another exam. And by the way,
you know, I think if I think, you know, if it's why, you know, it thinks I need another exam, well then, well, by the way,
I've laid every bit of the record out. I hadn't hidden a thing.
I said you had to think.
You ought to ask Trump for his, okay?
Why not? He put his out there already. So where have you been?
I laid it all out.
You haven't laid anything out. Just like Obama. All his records are sealed.
And every single day I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you. Or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it.
A neurological exam again?
No one's suggesting that to me now. And I'll ask you another question. No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? What'd you have? Did you do this? How many times did? So.
That's true for any president there. Right there, actually, what he said is true. And the other side's always going to do that. I had 2 doctors examine me. Really? Why didn't you have 7? He's actually telling a fact right there. That's actually true. So, I mean, I think it's the only thing I agree with him on.
I am not opposed that my doctors tell me I should have another neurological.
My apologies. We had a little technical difficulty there. I don't know what happened. I had to reboot the entire system, but let's see if we can pick up from roundabout where we left off, and let us continue.
Okay? Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But
we talked about that.
I'm tested every single day on my neurological capacity, the decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff and I said, I'm going to go to South Korea, we're going to get the chip. What are you doing?
Really? I'm going to go to South Korea, I'm going to get the chip. What are you doing? Who just jumped into his head and started speaking through him? What are you doing? See if that was again. See it again.
Haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff and I said, I'm going to go to South Korea, we're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again.
What was that? What was that?
And after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II, I'm going to move and see that we can expand it. You know, the only thing.
Since World War II, I want to move and see if we can expand it. You know, there's one thing. What? Did you just lose your train of thought again?
Age does is help you with it. Creates a little bit of wisdom.
Creates a little bit of wisdom.
If you pay attention. And so the point I'm making is, I think it's important that if the neurologist tells me
I think it's important that if my neurologist, what?
he thinks I need another exam. By the way,
If he thinks I need another exam. By the way, I got another thought that just popped in my head.
I've laid every bit of the record out. Hadn't hidden a thing.
Thing.
You ought to ask Trump for his, okay?
All right. Well, as we've said before, Trumps are all out there. Tax returns and everything are out there. Where's your tax returns, Geriatric Joe? Huh? Where's your tax return? Biden put his neurological out there. I mean, Trump put his neurological out there. I've been listening to Biden so long, I'm getting off. I'm coughing and everything else, too, just by watching this guy. He's a bad influence. But Trump got his all out there. Well, where's yours? Where's yours?
I laid it all out.
Show me. Show me where you laid everything out. Let's see it all. Let's see it all.
And every single day, I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem,
and they do.
I promise you. Or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it. No one's suggesting that to me now. And I'll ask you another question. No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? Who'd you have? Did you do this? How many times did you? So I am not opposed if my doctors tell me I should have another neurological exam, I'll do it. But that's where I am. Haley Bull, Scripps.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis when it comes to support for Ukraine. Does that mean you have not closed the door on further considering lifting restrictions for U.S.-made weapons inside Russia?
Look at his face.
If I may, your
Look at
convention
his,
is
like,
coming
looks
up
like a
where
deer in the
Democrats
headlights.
are pledged to make you the official nominee. If they have second thoughts, are they free to vote their conscience?
Obviously, they're free to do whatever they want, but I got overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. I won, I forget how many votes I won in the primary. Overwhelming. And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. Let's go back to the whispering. Creepy Joe. Yeah.
Someone else?
Sure. Look.
Let me think. I got to find words. I got to figure out how to answer this.
I'll end this with this.
Look, I'll end this with this.
I served in the Senate a long time.
Yeah, you said that how many times throughout this entire thing here, Geriatric Joe, and I've been asking you each time, what have you done that was good for this country and for the people of this country? Name one thing. 50 years in, and now you're going to start to fix things when you were the cause of it for 50 years?
I understand the impetus of candidates running for local office and whether they think the topic can help them or not. In my state of Delaware, which was a very, at least it was a red state when I started, in terms of we now talk red and blue.
That's still itching.
I don't recall most of the Democratic presidents winning my state when I was a candidate. The truth of the matter is I understand the self-interest of every candidate. If they think that, running with Biden at the top is going to hurt them, then they're going to run away. I get it. But so far, go and look at the polling data.
And the polling data, which is always wrong, it's always skewed in the left, up to the left. But this polling data, it is so strong for the right, they can't even skew it to the left. The polling data shows Trump blowing you freaking away.
In their states. Look at the in-depth, and by the way,
and look at the in-depth. And by the way, another crazy thought just popped in my head.
I think you'd all acknowledge, and you're all experts. I'm not being solicitous about the president. You're experts on this stuff.
I'm not being expert, sir.
How accurate does anybody think the polls are these days?
They are not accurate. They're skewed to the left, like I said. And all the polls are showing Trump way ahead of you. And when they're skewed to the left, that means Trump is blowing you out of the freaking water like you did with Nord Stream 2.
I can give you a series of polls where you have likely voters, me versus Trump, where I win all the time. When the unlikely voters vote, he wins sometimes. The bottom line is all the polling data right now, which I think is premature because the campaign really hasn't even started. I mean, it hadn't started in earnest yet. Most of the time, it doesn't start till after September, after Labor Day.
This campaign started in 2016.
So a lot can happen. But I think I'm the best I believe I'm the best qualified to govern.
I think I'm the best qualified to govern.
And I think I'm the best qualified to win. But there are other people who could beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch.
Name one. And let's let them start from scratch, okay?
And, we talk about, money raised. We're not doing bad.
Well, we can't do that. We gotta go back to the whisper. The drugs are wearing off. His is coming out strong. Has now gotten down to this. He's really doing well. Jack him up some more. Shoot him in the arm right on stage.
We got about $220
And I meant shoot him in the arm right on stage with drugs.
million in the bank. We're doing well. So, with that, you have any want to follow up on any of that you just asked me?
Yes. You earlier explained.
You asked if you want to follow up on any of that you just asked me. Well, basically she's saying, well, yeah, you didn't answer the whole question. You didn't even answer the question. So she's going to go ahead and reiterate here.
Confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump.
Which she does in the polls. She fares better against Trump than Biden.
Would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win.
And there is no way you can win. The reason why he's saying, as long as my people came back and said there's no way you can win, which means they'd come back and say, we can't cheat enough. It's too big to rig. We can't cheat enough. There's no way you can win.
Me. No one's saying that.
No one's saying that. Yes, we are. But we're whispering just like you, so you can't hear us.
No poll says that.
Yes, they all say that. All the polls say that.
Okay. Thank you.
This ends tonight's press conference. Thanks, everybody.
Now he's going to give the deer in the headlights look like, okay, now what? This guy right here, he's gonna ask a question. He's gonna get the last question, and Biden, this guy right here, is gonna tell this guy right here, do what Trump says. Watch this.
This concludes.
Deer in the headlights.
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
He just said Trump was right. He just said Trump was right. I'm telling you, people. I'll tell you, this was a long one. I apologize for the technical difficulties I experienced during it, but I got it figured out and fixed and got the whole thing completed. But I hope you stuck with us through the whole thing. I hope you listened in and you Hey, I hope you enjoyed my commentary. If you didn't enjoy it, and if you did enjoy it, go on down below and pop some comments in there. Tell me what you think. Okay, tell me how you liked it or not. Tell me what you think about Biden. Let me hear your opinions. I am very curious. And when you tell me your opinions, please tell me where you're from. You're out of Australia, out of London, you out of Cannes, France. Where are you out of? Let me know. Where are you out of? You out of Wisconsin? Are you out of Delaware, Texas, Florida, California? Actually, no, if you're from California, unless you're conservative, I don't want to hear. Okay, because we'll end up getting into an argument. But anyway, there it is, guys. That's the big boy conference. Okay, that's a big boy conference now, guys. That's the big boy one. All right, that's not his little one. That's a big boy. All right. Gosh, we're in trouble with this guy. But I hope you enjoyed it. Go on down there, give me some comments. Tell me what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll be giving you more of these. If you'd like to see more like this, let me know. Because I'm thinking I was going to go do this live, but there's not enough subscribers on this channel to do a live. So I decided just to go ahead and pre-record it, which is good because I ended up with the technical difficulties, and that would have been worse live. So I was able to fix it. But go on down there, like I said, throw me some comments, like, subscribe, share. Go ahead and hit the notification bell. If you want more like this, let me know. If you want more like the other ones I've been doing, let me know. I'm putting out a bunch of different styles right now just to see what appeals to you guys, okay? Because you guys are the ones I'm putting this out there for. So I just want to know what you guys think, and I can't know what you guys think and cater to you unless you go down in the comments below and you let me know. Okay? So on that note, guys, take care. Be good. I'll talk to you guys later. You have yourselves a great day. I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.